Good morning. I got to tell you about this story because it just happened last night. For the last, well, let me get rid of this. So the title is going to be Quantum Broadcast, right? Let me get rid of the font. So last night, I woke up around, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've been having like these really cool, kind of vivid dreams, and some of them are disjointed. Some of them are like 4 or 5 pieces that intersect and like slide in from one to another and don't have any connection with the previous one. But last night was really vivid to the point that it had like data points to it. Like it felt like I'd titled this like a broadcast from somewhere else, and it got me so interested that when I woke up I just couldn't shake it. It was one of those dreams that I was like, whoa, there's some information in there to carry on. And so I literally opened up my notepad on my phone, on my device, and I was like, okay, I'm going to like put a listing down of everything that I can remember, because I didn't want to forget the dream, because it was so vivid. It felt like useful information that I was going to need, or a prediction of future technology. So like I don't know if you remember back in the day. I wonder if I can show you my display actually. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, we go. So I don't know if you can remember back in the day, they had these so when I first got into video blogging, I had this really basic, like, oh actually I'm not on the screen, am I? So let me just put like a little where's my little circle, blurred circle, there we go. Back in the day when I was like an early video blogger and I had a little DV camera, you know, one of those ones with the tape, I remember flying over to the States and just buying all kinds of random bits of, you know, video technology to play with, like just stuff that was crap really. The sensors were crap, but there was a kind of like weird retro stuff now that if you put on TikTok would get stupid followers, because it's just like aged in some way, like early settler video content. And my camera at the time that I always wanted to get was one of these, which the local colleges had, and I got to play with some of them. And I was always blown away by the fact that I could put audio into it, so I could actually capture external audio, not just from the onboard mic, but actually have people mic'd up, which got me excited for like doing interviews and things like that. And you can't do that on a little DV camera. Back then, I don't know, they're maybe $100 or whatever. I didn't have a mic audio input, so you had to capture it separately on a separate device, sync them together. And in the early days with QuickTime and Real Media, Real Player, Real Networks, yeah, bonding all that stuff together actually was a pain in the arse, because codecs and working it all out, and getting your PC to actually encode it without falling over was an absolute nightmare. Not where it is today. It's absolutely so well mature now. FFmpeg is just amazing. If like a million options. So there was this camera, the XM2, that the college had, and I always wanted one because it had this 3CCD sensor. I had to look up the 3CCD meaning, which was a charged coupled device. I never really knew what CCD was. I just presumed it had 3 of something, and therefore it was better than the DV camera that had a fixed one CMOS sensor on it. Basically meaning that the colours were more vibrant on it, and it was literally like night and day. It was like flat profile or like, you know, detailed. And so I went digging around to find it, and this was the bad boy. Like, it's got this 3CCD written on the side of it. And this dream last night was so weird that it almost communicated across about like almost like a futuristic version of this. So now, in my mind, I'm thinking that Canon at some point are going to do some kind of retro, like futuristic looking XM2 for the future kind of device. This one that I had in like this vivid dream was almost like a floating camera on an arm. I don't know if it either clipped on or if it was like some kind of gimbal system, but it was like definitely the profile of this, but more like a weapon from like Destiny 2 shaped. It was a gorgeous looking device. And where this has got like this fold out screen, very retro, very old, very temperamental, could only like go up and down, like you couldn't do anything super special with it. Although that was one of the things about this, is that you could hold it by the handle at the top and put it mega low and flip that screen up and do some really cool like shots with it. And then on the top you've got like the audio inputs there, and you could just jack up audio into it. Massive big Sony battery on the back that most people would know. And then obviously you've got the little eyesight to look through. The screen wasn't too good on the back of that, but I had a lot of affinity and love for this camera. So I had to have a look up this morning, and looking at the footage was pretty rough and ready. I mean, it's great that you can like zoom into stuff. You can see around the edges where the camera distortion and vignetting was bad, but something like this now would be a classic camera. You know, the colors were super vibrant, but like this would be almost like retro content for TikTok nowadays. And obviously there's better, sharper 4K, 8K, just amazing cameras out there today. So this dream last night, let me get rid of my display thing and get rid of this blurred thing back on again. So this dream last night was wild because I visualized this futuristic camera, and on the side of this camera, I remember this dream, I was looking down at this device. I don't know if I was looking at my arm or if it was just like I was looking at the side of this camera, like a carry camera, and it had a massive screen on it. It was like a touch screen, IPS, like just futuristic AF, like a head-up display on it. That was where you did everything on the camera. But more than anything, the reason why I wrote this down and was like, whoa, taken aback from it, is that I felt like I was being relayed information about this future camera. And maybe it was just my imagination like running wild and like just putting things in there. And maybe it's like just the interactions with the iPad that I've had, and just tools have got so good with AI and being able to put things into scenes and stuff like that. But I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. But I put virtual shows you could swipe onto a pre-recorded scene or in real time, light cones of AI virtual lighting. So it's almost like this futuristic tech was like, as you're, and I guess it's similar to like the iPhone 13 with their kind of like cinematic stuff, where like somebody turns ahead and the AI knows to change the rack focus onto somebody in the background. But it was like the screen was so nice and so fluid, and the latency was so low, that if you had captured a scene, or if you're in the middle of capturing a scene and you wanted to add some virtual lighting in there, you didn't have, like I've got up lights to be on the green screen now, you could literally almost swipe out like a cone, and it would just give you a little like a, you know, like a little a triangle going wider out, and you could just paint these on the scene, and it was like a AI enhanced real-time virtual lighting system built into the camera, and like overlaid, like post-processing. And I was just like, oh my god, that would be amazing. Imagine being able to go to a venue, or like you're doing a recording and you don't have lights, or you don't have an additional team, it's just you, the camera. Maybe you can control it with your watch or your headset or whatever. But I love this idea of like being able to swipe out and put a light source in, a virtual AI driven light source on it. So I had to write it down because it felt like I was being relayed information from elsewhere, like my psyche had just pulled it in from elsewhere. And then underneath, which made it even more interesting of a dream, automatic zoning for scene or display blurring. Imagine like an FCC kind of built-in mechanism, the same as like drone technology, that you can't go, I think it's 300 feet or something like that. I think it's 300 feet, and you can't go into certain areas to fly your drone. It's like a geo-fenced off. The idea that this camera could have FCC kind of approval built into it of blurring, automatic blurring of screen technology. So imagine where we're going into the future, where we've got screens everywhere. If you imagine like a Blade Runner-esque world where, you know, you've got Times Square in New York, which is like this anyway. It's just screens fucking everywhere. Light everywhere into your fucking retinas. Like, sell, look at this, do this, be part of this. And what was so vivid in this dream is that there was an option on the camera to automatically do that live, like the post-production could be live. So if you're doing a live stream from the camera, or if you're recording content, you wouldn't have to edit it afterwards. to blur out any occurrence of screens. The AI was smart enough to do the blurring of, so you didn't get into trouble with advertisers and things like that. And it felt such like a communication from somewhere else that it got me thinking of like a storyline for this. And I guess in some ways it's a little bit like Looper, right? So it felt for a moment like a future vlogger version of me was privy to some kind of onboard streaming technology that, instead of like connecting to a RTMP server like on YouTube or Twitch, it used some kind of quantum technology, right? We've burnt through like cellular, burnt through satellite, and now we're onto quantum, and it's mainstream. I know that's like so far away because we have to nanoscale it, and what are the ramifications of a world where nobody can listen in on each other's communications. But it was like built into this futuristic camera that I could like just quantumly send my my video into the cloud somewhere off camera. No need for storage, just on this super high speed, whatever it may be, way faster than like a 7 or 8G or whatever. And then I had this like weird part of the dream where I found a way to converse with a previous iteration of me using like this like quantum communication system. So it was it felt like I was being relayed, like the settings were wrong in the camera, and this information somehow had got back to me. And that, I guess that means like it's some kind of time traveling camera. But like when we're getting into like quantum environments, like I just wonder like where does light eventually go, right? And so like I had this kind of dream that we could virtually route, no matter where in the cloud all the time, videos from the future to assist the past. And it was just so vivid that I had to write it. I literally woke up at 3 o'clock, grabbed my iPad and started typing. Like this is wild. Like I've never had such a vivid dream like that in years, and so I wanted to record it and make a little vlog about it this morning. But can you imagine like future cameras that have kind of built-in things like that for like blurring of stuff, and being able to like bring in virtual lighting rigs, and that's exciting to me. It's exciting to me from a number of angles. One, from the creator perspective of what is, if we're not working anymore and money doesn't exist anymore, and it's just like the store of value, the staked human in a digital realm, your interaction with the built environment, with infrastructure and hardware and super cities and borders between countries, like the documentation of that, like at that point everybody becomes a vlogger, right? We've started with camera phones, smartphones. Now everybody, not everybody, but a huge percentage of society, I'd love to know what it is. It's got to be way more than like 20% of all humans, got to be, have a phone now. I don't know what that figure is. I'm sure like there's a lot of people that don't have a smartphone, but we're going the way of like integrated systems into like glassware, and then VR and AR is like, it's not there yet, but at some point it will get there. And you've already got countries that have got like 7 and 8G testing. When you remove the latency and this stuff is always on, where is the line between we're just streaming our whole like existence, and how do you correlate a value, how do you layer on a value economy on top of that, and what does that look like? Is it blockchain powered? Is it like I looked at this venue and made a decision that I'm going in there, and therefore I get credits because I'm now using that provider? I don't know. It's just like, it was wild, man, and I was here for it. I woke up this morning, had a flat white, and I was buzzing. It felt like information had been relayed to me from another time, and that was fucking hell of exciting. All right, you have a good Sunday. I'll go and get back into my mental health ward and see if I need to have any more meds.